something. Oh, sorry, calling this meeting to order at 10:02. Let's say the pledge. Will you please stand? Julie?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Freeman. Berkowitz.
Here.
Costa. Dean Schlattman. Hickey. Mitchell. Butler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, I need motion for approval of minutes. All right, I need a motion for approval of minutes for May 1st. Can I get a motion?
Second for Boyd.
Do we need another
Yes.
vote? Roll call?
Freeman.
Yes.
Berkowitz.
Yes.
Costa. Mitchell.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, there's no other new business. We have some informational reports, and we are going to begin with Dr. Kathleen Burke on our substance use initiative update.
The new business from the.
Oh.
Yeah, the HF.
I am sorry. I'm Chief Deputy Dave Adams. And I've been waiting for you for so long. I don't know how I did that, so. Okay,
Pleasure to be here. I was asked to present revenues and expenses from 2024 for the adult detention facility. And I was also asked to go through the daily duties or activities of a correctional deputy, and then to present any concerns or issues that I had. So I'll try to move quickly. I know that this is not a finance committee meeting, so I'll try not to get into any detail on the finances, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee has. But just to kind of give you a quick rundown, that first sheet you see there, you probably have to blow it up on your iPads there. It's pretty small, but if you'll look, that first page is revenues, and this is kind of like a miscellaneous category. So this is revenues that we bring in at the ADF that are not county taxpayers as a source, so they're not budgeted. So they're kind of more miscellaneous things. That first line, reimbursement, housing of prisoners for almost $600. What that is if we house somebody overnight for another agency, and for example, there's private companies out there that transport inmates around the country from maybe one coast to another, they need to stop, and the officers and that need to stay in a hotel, for example, they'll pay us to house them overnight, and then we charge them. So we got $600 worth last year, not a lot of money. The next one, $72,500 is a reimbursement for the Corrections Academy. We send new hires to the Corrections Academy. We pay a certain amount, and then we get a reimbursement at the end of the year from the state, and that's what that category is. That third line, $112,000, is a SCAP grant. That's a Department of Justice grant we get for housing of criminal aliens. The fourth one is inmate medical fees, if we can collect any of those. The fifth is recovery of expenses. So if an inmate damages the facility in any way, we try to charge them and get reimbursed for that. If we can, if they have like commissary funding, we'll try to recover some of those fees from their trust account. And then that final category is a miscellaneous category as it's labeled. And this is something that can be like rebates for when we purchase things from Gordon Food Service, for example, or if we have, when we transport inmates to the Department of Corrections, we get mileage reimbursements from the state. So it's a small amount of money, but that's what that is. The rest of the revenues that we get are budgeted by you members, approved by you. And so the next sheet, which is 3 pages long, that has both expenses and revenues in it. If you look at the, on your copy, I believe it's the second category, original budget. That's what the county's approved. And then the category next to it is what it was revised to. And then our actual spending is in the third column. And then you can, of course, obviously remaining budget, what was left over, and then the percentage of that, the budget used. If you can go through, I guess I could just tell you what the totals are rather than go through these line by line because, you know, probably 60% of them I'd have to do research to tell you what they were anyway. But generally speaking, we were originally budgeted $51.6 million, of course, and change. It was revised to $50.8 million, and we ended up spending 51.5. So we actually came in $155,000 under the original budget from the county board, which, you know, for the adult detention facility, some of the senior members been around for a while. That's actually pretty good for us. We've become quite efficient with the money that's given to us by taxpayers. So we try to be responsible with that and be good stewards of that revenue that's given to us. Our overtime has come down considerably. We continue to try to hire new employees that's the key to us being efficient. There's been a couple staffing studies that have been done over the years that the board has paid for that showed that if the more staff we have to a point, and we're not there yet, by the way, to a point, we actually save a considerable amount of money. We're paying people time and a half. So I just wanted to go over that. Any questions on that? I wanted to cover one more topic on budget stuff.
Well, go ahead and finish all your
All right.
budget stuff, and then we'll ask questions.
The other one's a miscellaneous one, and I don't have it broken down, but it's a special fund, and it's the inmate trust account. And what that is that's monies that are generated revenues by the inmates purchasing video visits, their telephone calls. They can send like emails to their loved ones. They can buy commissary like candy bars and shampoos and things like that. All those things will generate a revenue, and that revenue does not come to us directly at the sheriff's office. We could spend on anything. We spend that money on things that benefit the inmates that we're not required by law to provide. An example would be checkerboards or chessboards or basketballs or hair clippers, or, you know, think of things like that. The televisions in their housing units where they watch television. Things like that we'll use out of that category of funding. And so it's paid for completely by the inmates, and everything we spend out of it goes to benefit the inmates. So I can't take that money and fund personnel, overtime, vehicles, anything we're required by law to provide those inmates, we can't use those funds for. And so that's paid for generally revenues by the inmates, and then it benefits the inmates. So I give some examples of what we would spend that on. Any questions about that stuff?
Yeah, I just had, well, I'm sorry. Does anyone else have a question first? Okay. Oh, put your,
I know there have been some changes in the law about inmates and the use of the telephone. I remember reading at one time, it was like $20 a minute to call a loved one. And I believe that was a Cook County jail, or maybe LA County or New York City or something. Are we charging rates like that for them to be able to make phone calls? You know.
Like that, no, that would be much higher than what our inmates are paying. But it's strictly regulated by the FCC. So, we can't charge whatever we want. The companies that,
I thought there was a change.
Yep.
That is the change, because I think they used to be able to charge pretty much whatever they wanted.
yeah, probably before my time. I mean, maybe those numbers were insane like that. They're still more expensive, by the way. I mean, I don't want to give you the false impression. If you get arrested to come to jail, you're not getting, Verizon costs or whatever. It's going to be more expensive. But you got to think of all that goes into providing that service for the inmates. I mean, there's security. The phones have to be more robust. They have to bring it into a facility. It needs to be reliable. Do they generate a profit? They do indeed, but otherwise they wouldn't be in business, and who would provide the phone service to the inmates? The facility also generates revenues, as I explained, but specifically it's regulated by the FCC, and we don't charge a penny more. It would be illegal to do so.
so I was just concerned, how is the facility? Is it up to date? Does it then need a repair? What are we looking at?
So the original jail was built in 1988. It was expanded in 2008 to about double capacity. At that time, we also built the Video Visitation Center, which is across the street. It allows visits for free to the public and attorneys. I would say that we were in pretty rough shape. I will give credit. This board has been very good to us as far as large capital projects. One of the biggest was our facility roof that had been leaking for, close to 20 years. And as you guys can imagine, when the facility roof is leaking water in the facility, it's damaging all sorts of other operations. We kept repeatedly repairing electronics and things, server rooms, et cetera. And so getting that done, which it was done last year, was huge for us. There's other projects y'all have funded. which have been good to help us. I would say, generally speaking, we're doing really good right now. We're about to begin an upgrade for our, what we call an integrator system. And so I shouldn't say all, but 99.9% of the doors in the facility are controlled by computer with electronic solenoids to unlock them and open them. And so we have various ways to do that, but that whole system has to be repaired and replaced because they no longer sell parts for it. And we were actually for a long time buying replacement network cards and things like that for the system on eBay because they couldn't be purchased anywhere else. And so thankfully that's been funded by the board. And so we thank you for that. And that project's about to begin here in a number of weeks, which it's going to be a royal pain, but we'll be glad to have it done.
All right, well, if there's no other questions, carry on.
All right, so I just wanted to talk about our facility just in general. And then if I ever get off track and you guys want me to switch course, please stop me. I'll do it, but I wanted to explain our facility. It's a direct supervision philosophy facility. And what that means is it's a theory of running a jail, managing detainees, as opposed to the old style you might have seen in a lot of movies where they have bars and long rows of cells and the staff walk by and, you know, they're banging their cups against we don't have that. Okay. So what we have is direct supervision. And if you can picture, some of you may have been, I know Sherry knows quite a bit about it. Some of you may have been in the facility. If you don't know the way the housing units are designed, they're called pods, or that's what we call them. And it's a large diamond shaped area. The newer ones are rectangle shaped. We have 2 floors of inmate cells with, of course, stairs in the day room. The day rooms are mostly carpeted. We have televisions in there. We have tables. We have chairs. And what we want the inmates to do is have structure and discipline. We like to hold them accountable for their behavior. We have specific rules. We give each inmate a handbook with, a lot of rules in it. And for many of them, it's the first structure they've ever had in their life. What it does is we expect them to act like human beings, like responsible human beings. And for a large part, that's the behavior we get. If we lower our expectations, we're sure to meet them. And so direct supervision is based on that. It's based on highly trained staff. It's based on our architecture, where the inmates are expected to come out and live in a congregate area together, get along and not act aggressively with each other. We expect our staff to be good leaders, to set an example for how to behave. There's accountability for the inmates. If inmates are violating rules of the facility, we expect our staff to hold them accountable, address it, not ignore it. And then consistency. So we try to have every officer treat every inmate the same way to the extent that that's possible. That's the direct supervision philosophy. So the inmates spend most of their time every day out in the day room with the officer, and they kind of spend the day together. Our training program for a new officer, it starts with 2 weeks of orientation in our facility. Our training unit puts together 2 weeks of training that's very basic. It talks about what are the dangers of working in a jail, how do you need to behave, what are some traps that inmates set, what are some danger points. We show them some cheesy video, something we call down in the duck. And what that is, that's kind of a jail or prison term for what inmates will do to, especially a new staff member, sometimes senior staff members, is they'll try to get you, they're very good at manipulating you, and they'll try to get you, they'll say, you're the best officer that works here. All the other officers are really mean, but you're really nice, and you're really fair, and you do a good job, and they're lucky to have you. And hey, can you do me a favor? And they play this game of manipulating, and they get you to do a small favor. And then if you do that, then they kind of got you hooked, and they say, okay, now that you've done me that favor, you better do this favor, or I'll tell on you for that favor. And it continues to grow, and this is how you see corruption get into a facility. And so we tell people about that. We train them for that, how to avoid it. But that's basically the 2 weeks orientation is all those things. We prepare them to go to the academy. The academy is 8 weeks long, all the various topics you can imagine. And then when they come back, we give them a week of specific direct supervision training to teach them how we expect them to behave, how we expect them to hold the inmates accountable, and how our jail is different from many other jails specific to direct supervision. At the end of that, we have 9 weeks of field training, and field training is where we put a newer officer with a senior trainer officer on the various shifts. We have 3 8-hour shifts, and they work all the different posts throughout the jail. They're trained how we do it, what our policies and procedures are. They're evaluated to make sure that they can meet the mark and that they're ready to be on their own. And if all that goes well and they don't need remedial, then we send them off and they start becoming an officer for you guys in Will County. That's how we prepare an officer. And then our facility operations are many. So if you can imagine, kind of in a synopsis, what we do in that county jail is what each one of us does in our own private lives. You have to provide for these people. I mean, they live and breathe and they eat and they sleep in our facility. So they need medical care. They need groceries. They need laundry. They need showers. They need recreation. I mean, if you can imagine it, we probably need to provide it for them. And so what we do every day exists of all those things. We have housing, which is the bulk of the facility. We have our intake and release areas where new inmates come and arrive to the jail. We orient to the jail. And then also we do releases. We have food service. So we have a full kitchen. We have medical, full-time 24/7 medical care. We have mental health care. We have Matt and Mar. We have, which is medication assisted treatment. You guys probably already know that. We have laundry facilities, building and grounds, keep the place clean. We have facility maintenance, so keeping the lights on, keeping the hot water hot, et cetera. Commissary, so that's inmates that buy things with their own money that are extra on top of what we provide them, like candy. Inmate technology, so that's your telephones, your tablets, things like that, visits. Inmate trust accounts, which we kind of explained a little bit, which is the inmates come in with money. We have to manage that and be stewards of it and make sure they get everything back that they're supposed to have when they leave. FOIA, we have to be compliant with FOIA, so we have FOIA staff. Compliance with NCCHC standards, ACA standards, Illinois County Jail standards. I'll explain that quickly in a second. We have a records division. We have mail department, which, as you can imagine, can be difficult. We have a classification staff to make sure that the correct inmates are living in the correct housing units. We have staff training division. Transports, we bring inmates to doctor's appointments. We bring them to the health department. We bring them to court. We bring them to other facilities. We bring them to prison. So we do all kinds of things there. We have a court holding facility underneath the new courthouse that you guys built. We have inmate holding underneath there. We bring them up and down to court. We also are responsible for maintaining the safety and security of other agencies that bring custodies to court. So we maintain that as well. We have visitation for both family and friends and attorneys. And we have an intelligence unit to try to keep us on top of everything that's happened in the facility and also what happens outside the facility that is going to come into our facility. We actually have a really good cooperation with area agencies, police agencies, where our facility is full of good intelligence. If anything's happened in the county or nearby counties, inmates are talking about it. And so we work with them and help them to solve cases and things as well. So the average day for a housing unit deputy, I could pick any one of these posts. I'll just pick a housing unit deputy. That's the largest aspect of what we do, is they start their day by attending roll call. So they come to work 15 minutes early and for free, by the way, and they attend a shift briefing to find out what happened in the past couple of shifts. What am I walking into? What's going on in my housing unit? Is there anything I need to know? After that, they go to their housing unit that they're assigned to. They conduct a head count. So all the inmates that are in there, by the way, the average housing unit has about 50 inmates and one officer. And so we lock the door and the officers in the housing unit with the 50 inmates. And so they start the day by bringing them to head count. So all the doors are opened at once. All the inmates stand there. They're expected to be fully dressed and quiet, wearing a wristband and waiting for instructions. The officer has to stand out there and give a speech to these 50 inmates, and they tell them what the expected behavior is going to be. They also conduct a head count and make sure we have everyone that we're supposed to have and they're in the right place, so they don't look like Louisiana in the news. And when that's done, they'll usually lock that housing unit down while they can take over what they need to do and let the officer that's getting off leave. But they'll take that information from that deputy that's leaving. They'll find out what's going on specifically with the inmates in that housing unit. They'll conduct their inventories. They'll begin a log. They'll conduct security checks at least every 30 minutes on a regular basis. I talked about the head count speech. So once that stuff is done, it usually takes 5 or 6 minutes. They'll usually let the inmates come back out to head count, ask them if they have any questions, and then they begin their recreation time. So all 50 of these inmates will come out, and then we should just spend time together. They'll watch TV. They'll get on the phone. They'll play basketball. They'll do whatever they're going to do. And the deputy there is just to make sure they follow the rules, answer any questions they have, and address their needs. They also have to serve meals. They have to do medication pass with the nursing staff. They have to conduct a laundry exchange to make sure they have clean linens and clean clothing. They have to complete work orders for things that are broken, issue and collect the inmate tablets, make entries in their correction officer activity log and the inmate activity log. They have to write reports for rule infractions and medical, all kinds of incidents. They perform cell inspections to make sure there's no contraband or no damage to the facility. They perform lockdowns of inmates according to our schedule or during emergencies. Anytime there's an emergency, we usually lock the facility down to make sure we can address that emergency before we let everyone back out. They prepare court call. They transport to court. They issue commissary and commissary day. They issue the hygiene items, document and issue inmate discovery and legal paperwork, digital materials. That's kind of ever-growing animal, et cetera, and so on. I could probably talk for hours about that, and you guys would all fall asleep. But it's an involved operation, and I can just tell you that we're quite proud of the way that our facility staff performs. You guys should be proud of your county jail. It's ACA, American Corrections Association accredited, has been since about 1993. There are 4 adult detention facilities in this state that are accredited, and that's it. And there's about 3% nationally that are accredited facilities through ACA. We're one of those and have been for decades now. We're also NCCHC accredited. It's National Commission on Correctional Healthcare. And so that's a voluntary, improved, and raised standards for the medical and mental health care of detainees in a county jail. We've been maintaining that accreditation for a number of years now. And then I also was asked about, do we have policies? I didn't really fully understand the question, but I can tell you we have 257 policies and procedures that our staff are subject to. And we try to shrink that number, but it usually tends to grow. So there's quite a bit of rules in there, as you can imagine. And so now I'll shut up and answer questions.
Micah?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you go by Deputy Adams?
I go by Dave or whatever you want to call me. Dave is perfect.
Okay, Dave. At the beginning, you were talking about the training. And it was 2 weeks training to start. And then there was something before the 8-week training and I missed it.
But it's just part of the 2 weeks of orientation. So that would be, it's 2 weeks and then 8 weeks of the academy, then 1 week of direct supervision and 9 weeks of field training. So that's the startup program for a new hire. Now, of course, we do sometimes add time to that if they need remedial training. It's important in this field that you're very confident in yourself and your abilities and that you feel you can handle it before you kind of go on your own. Because the guys that live there, they're all innocent, first of all, but some of them will challenge you. And especially when you're new, they try to test you. And so we want to make sure that they're pretty established on our foundation before we let them go.
So what did you call the 8-week training?
That's the academy, the basic corrections academy.
That was my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Why would we seek accreditation? Like, we have a criminal justice system and then they get found guilty and they have to get sent up to somewhere. Like, does it really matter if you're accredited? You know what I mean? Like, they have to go to a facility where they're going to be held for whatever the punishment is, or the rehabilitate, whatever you want to call it. What would be the point of, it's not like it's a hospital where you might have a choice to go to one hospital or the next. You have to go. So what is the purpose of the accreditation?
I think it's a really good question. It's open to everyone whether it's worth it.
Oh,
Pressing button.
You're gonna have to repeat that.
All right. So the question, why should we pursue accreditation? So really so we have county jail standards that legally we have to abide by those, and that's set by the state. And so that's the minimum standard. The accreditation, NCCHC and ACA are raised standards. So there's more stringent standards that we have to meet in order to maintain that accreditation. There's several reasons why. One of them is it helps us in civil litigation. When we get sued, and if it goes to trial, especially in front of a jury trial, it just shows that, hey, not only do we meet all the standards of a county jail, but we're in the sort of elite company as far as we have a very professionally run and organized jail. And so these detainees that are in our facility are not getting what they're required to get. They're getting that and much more. They can expect a better performance out of this sheriff's department than the average sheriff's department. So it helps us in that regard. It also makes it a safer facility, I think, is the more order that you have for detainees and staff, I think it makes it a better and more well-run facility. It's cleaner. For example, some of the accreditation standards will be you have to have a turnover of fresh air so many times per hour in a cell. You have to have so many lumens of light in a cell. Some of these are very specific. We have to take noise level readings in a day room with inmates out, and it can't exceed a certain level of decibels because that stuff affects behavior. It's indirectly connected, but if it's loud and it's dirty and it smells bad and all that, inmates will tend to act like inmates in that environment. And so our facility, being direct supervision, we try to have it set up more like a place where not inmates would live. You know what I mean? We have carpet, we have books that they can read. They sit in chairs that they're not like made of steel and bolted to the floor. They're plastic chairs. We try to expect better behavior out of them. And so we tend to get better behavior out of them. And so accreditation, you could argue it either way, but I think it does help us meet that standard. You're welcome.
Yeah, I just had a question about the average length of stay of the detainees.
I did not bring that with me, so I apologize. I definitely can get that for you. And it's killing me that I can't remember because I just prepared that about a month ago. So I apologize. Yeah, I should have had it.
I was actually going to ask that question too. That was for
Yeah,
the accreditations.
I'll get that by the end of the day and I'll send it to you.
Hang on a second.
Good morning. It's still
Morning.
Yeah, okay, so, just a couple of questions. I know you said there's 3 8-hour shifts. Is there any thought to change to 12-hour shifts like the road deputies at any point? Or is this, are we going to continue that way? And then also, I'll just get them both out so you can answer back to back. How are you doing on turnaround with, hiring new officers, new deputies into the jail and then, seeking employment elsewhere after they've been fully trained and, fully vetted on the county's dime and then looking elsewhere for another position that may still be higher paying than Will County? So those are my questions.
Yes, I thank you for the questions. First of all, the question was, we have 3 8-hour shifts, or we're looking to go to 12-hour shifts for the deputies in the jail. The answer is yes. I mean, I sometimes I think about retirement when I lay my head down and I think about going to 12-hour shifts because that would be great for us. The problem is, as compared to us in the jail as opposed to patrol divisions, if a patrol division runs short in an area, which we know we tend not to do, but if we run short in an area, we can run short and they'll just have someone cover another zone. We'll jump over and help them out if they get a call. In the jail, we can't do that. We have minimum staffing requirements. And so, as I mentioned before, we have like 1 deputy for 50 inmates. I can't have 1 deputy cover 100 inmates. Plus they're 2 separate locations physically. So for us, it doesn't work. We have to have a certain amount of people in the building for not just for when things are going well, but for when things stop going well and something kicks off. We have to have enough staff to respond to that in addition to maintaining those housing units. So we don't have enough staff to go to 12-hour shifts yet because we'd have to go, right now we have 3 different shifts. We'd have to actually go to 4 if we went to 12s because you'd have to have A and B for each of the 12-hour shifts. So that is something that's absolutely on the table. In fact, we're exploring doing 12-hour shifts for our supervisors in the jail, potentially this fall. And so we're trying to make that happen if we can. And that would give us a good way to work out a lot of bugs in advance for the deputies. The second question was the hiring. We've been doing a good job hiring. So this board gave us a pretty good raise in the last contract for the correctional deputies. We certainly appreciate that. It does not go unnoticed. It did help. But as we increase, that affects the market as well. And so other counties also increase. And so we're in contract negotiations right now. I'll just say that it's going well. That I'll give you any specifics. We're making some progress quickly. I think it's going to be tough to be like the number 1 out there. But I don't want to, I'll reserve comments on that, but I'll just say that the raises that we've been getting have been helping. We have been hiring good candidates. We have to be very careful that we don't allow someone in that doesn't meet the mark for us, because if we lower our standards, it could get actually very dangerous. So, and it can ruin a facility. You could ruin your culture overnight by letting some people in that don't meet the mark. So we have to maintain that standard. Hiring has been good, but I will say one of the things I was asked was to mention concerns or problems that are upcoming. One of them is we have a significant number of retirements. I mentioned this a couple of times. The rubber's about to meet the road on those. We've already probably had 8 or 10 probably in the last 12 months. By the end of this year, we'll have 21 eligible to retire, 21 deputies eligible to retire. They'll have age and years. In 2026, we'll add 9 more. That's a total of 30. In 2027, we add 15 more. So that's a total of 45. And then by 2030, so 5 years, it's not that long from now, we'll have 70 eligible to retire. Now, will they retire? I don't know. But will they probably retire? Because nobody really wants to do extra years in the jail. So I'll put that out there. the board's been very good to us. I appreciate that. I'm not trying to raise an alarms, but I'm also trying to raise an alarm that we kind of have to set the standard for correctional deputies in this area. Because I don't know if the other county jails are in the same predicament that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Butler. Thank you so much for being here today and answering our questions. Really appreciate it, Dave. I think that this is an appropriate conversation that should be sent to finance, probably in the near future. Start talking about, the budget and those kinds of concerns. So I think policy here is good at public health and safety, but I think we really need to bring Dave back to have further discussion on employment and salaries at finance.
Okay, so I want to have a follow-up on Member Mitchell's question about why would we be accredited? I'm assuming there's funding that is increased with all these accreditations. Is that?
Not
a
really.
thing? No? I was hoping for it.
Yeah, here's what I'll tell you. Just objective data, I think it probably costs us more to be accredited.
Okay.
Because with those increased standards, it's more work for our staff. We have to make sure that we're documenting all that work. And then we have auditors come in every three years on a rotating basis. They're not both in the same year. So there are increased costs as part of that. It's up to the county board when I continue to pursue that or not. And one thing I will tell you is that, the what's been happening in corrections generally in the nation has changed over the years, as you can imagine. And so when accreditation kind of became a thing, there was a lot more money in the economy, a lot more money being poured into law enforcement. And so it was just a different sort of landscape. Now I would say that sheriff's departments, prisons probably, but I don't know that, are probably struggling more to meet the mark and meet the basic minimum standards. So it's nice to say that you're accredited, but it's also harder to be accredited. The other thing I'll say is ACA, for example, seems to be lacking in staffing. We were supposed to be accredited and have an audit. By the way, I should restate that we are still accredited fully, but we were supposed to have an audit in October of 23, and we're still waiting for them. So I think that they have been hurting in staffing, and so we maintain our accreditation because we've been maintaining the standards, but we haven't been audited. So I don't know how long ACA will stay afloat anyway. And I'm not qualified to speak on that. This is my opinion.
And so, as an educator, you want to go to where the good schools are, the one where the administrator is going to support you, where, it's a healthier environment than, the one I taught at where we had a bomb threat my first day and a gang fight by the end of the week. That one wasn't such a wonderful place to work. So I'm assuming that it also helps, people want to come work there, maybe?
Yeah, I think
Find positives.
I think it does. I think,
Other than-
if I were to bring you into my jail after visiting 3 others and you could pick the 3 others, you literally could pick the 3 others. And I think when you come to our jail, you'd say, wow, this place is quiet. It's well run. It's clean. The inmates are much more better behaved. It seems safer. And so I think that does have an effect for sure. But it's hard to say tangible. It's hard to point to things. I think intangible helps.
So I'm just going to stop this right now. I have a question. Is your presentation pretty much, you gave us, you're just taking questions now, or did you have more stuff to go over?
The only thing I was asked to present problems or difficulties that I perceive to be in the future.
Yeah,
One of them,
I'm sorry for, maybe we could come back to the questions. Let's finish the presentation. I'm trying to allow enough for everybody else to get in here too.
Question was, I was going to ask,
Okay,
if you had any problems or concerns, we need to be aware.
so we'll get back to that. I want to make sure you get everything in.
sure, and I am almost done. So the one thing I mentioned that Member Berkowitz mentioned was the FCC ruling. There was just recently an FCC ruling that says that inmate communications, jails and prisons can no longer generate revenues as a result of those. So I was talking to you about that miscellaneous special fund of the inmate trust account where we buy chessboards and checkerboards and basketballs and things. So the money that pays for those things is generated by inmate communications and inmate commissary. So we'll still be able to keep the inmate commissary revenues coming in. One of the biggest items I should also mention that's paid for out of that budget is Center for Correctional Concerns, which is a voluntary organization within our facility. They do a ton of work that you don't want to be paying deputies to do. They do wonderful things for the detainees. We could argue if it's worth it or not, but I can just tell you that they do things that it's a lot cheaper to have them do it than to have us do it. So they'll contact the family. They'll verify if there's been a death in the family, for example, and contact the funeral home. They'll do things like give them anger management classes. They'll give them Alcohol Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. They'll give them counseling on domestic violence. I could go on and on. They do some wonderful things. So that's paid for also out of those revenues. The FCC has ruled that the companies that provide the services for the inmates, the inmate communications, they can still generate revenues and make a profit, but the counties and the states can no longer have any funds out of that. And so basically what it's going to do is if we're going to continue to pay for those things, it's going to switch that burden to the taxpayer rather than to the inmate that was helping to pay for it. And so I think as a result, we're going to have to try to cut some of those things back, and I'm happy to do that. But I think that potentially we're going to have to do some funding from the taxpayers of Will County to meet that mark. The other concern, of course, was the staffing, which we've talked about. Thirdly is that this isn't so much a concern, but just a statement that our counts have come down as a result of the Safety Act. Some of you have been monitoring that. They're not down, a crazy amount. And I'll also say that they're creeping back up. But I will say this is that I think that the type of detainee living in our facility now is different than lived in it a few years ago. And certainly different than 20 years ago. We used to have inmates that lived there that were there for revoked license or DUIs, things like that. Domestic battery would be living in our jail. That no longer happens in our jail now. It's a very concentrated population of violent and dangerous inmates, a lot of them mental health issues. As a result of legislation. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but the ones that are not dangerous are not in our jail anymore. So the numbers that we have are much more difficult to manage than if we would have had that same number 10 years ago. So I wanted to just kind of state that openly. And then as a result of that, attacks on staff continues to go up. Inmates that have mental health is probably the biggest concern. It's not the only concern, but mental health issues in a county jail, I don't know all the politics of it. I don't know what the state has done. I have opinions, but I don't even know if they're correct. But I will say that we have a lot more mental health detainees now that are commit crimes and end up in our facility as a result of those crimes is a lot higher than it used to be. And I will tell you that in a state facility, they can sort of force medicate. They can mandate the medication, which helps the inmate to be safer because they're not hurting themselves or others. In our facility, we're very limited. If an inmate wants to take the medication, we'll give it to them. If they don't want to take it, we can't give it to them. And so those inmates, if they don't take their medications, they're violent, they're dangerous. And that's an issue for us. And that's all I have.
Okay, just for everybody, I'm going to ask a few questions, but afterwards, if you have a question, make it concise and then a short answer.
I'll do my best.
Okay, so first of all, I know they asked about the average length of stay. Does anyone stay 6 months?
Yes.
A year?
Yeah, we have,
A
I think
year?
the number is 151 custodies right now that have been there for more than a year.
Okay. So, all right. And then when people are directed to your facility, are they only directed if they are in court in Will County, or can other counties direct people here? Like, can we accept prisoners from other counties or areas that there's court cases and then have them here, receive them, and then get
You mean someone
compensated?
that does not have a Will County case?
Yes.
It can happen in a rare occurrence. And as I mentioned, the fees that we charge, it's usually for just an overnight, and that's on a rare occasion. Other than that, the answer is no.
But it could happen.
It could happen indeed, yes. And in fact, one of the things, probably the most common way that it happens is if someone has Will County cases and cases in other jurisdictions, they finish their case in Will County, and we have to hold them until the other agency picks them up. And by the way, statutorily now, there's limits on the amount of time that we can hold them. They have to pick them up or we have to let them go.
Okay. No, I was just wondering for accreditation, people might say, hey, plea out, you get to stay at a nicer place where they treat you better, where you got higher accreditation, Okay. And then you said that there's one officer per 50 inmates. per pod, right? One officer per pod and there's 50 inmates in there?
Yeah, but I will clarify that's in a general population housing unit. There's many other different types of housing units. There's many other posts where that is not the ratio, and that's the average ratio. So one of those housing units, some of them have a max housing of 56, some of them have a max housing of 46, depends on the housing unit. And then those are general population. We also have discipline, we have medical, we have, female,
Okay.
we have all different classifications.
And then I just, honestly, I thought, wow, one person for 50 people, that doesn't seem like a lot of guards for that many people. But
That's what the new people say too.
yeah, okay. We're gonna go with, I think, you were first and then you, Jackie. Hang on a second here. 6. There you go.
Thank you, Chair Butler. So Dave, the ADF, we have to carry some type of insurance, correct?
Yeah, the county has a policy.
Okay.
Specifically, I don't have one, so I don't know the details on, but that's
All right.
correct.
So we have a specific policy. Does the accreditation help us with obtaining a lower premium or lower cost for the insurance? Do you know?
I'd have to guess that it does, but I don't know.
I would hope so. So I would think that you don't have to confirm it, but I would suspect that that does have some type of positive impact to the county.
I
for all
don't
your
factually know.
efforts. Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up on a couple of things, I'm sure that accreditation helps when we go to try to get grants, makes us look better, puts us in a better competition. But speaking to the insurance question, we're self-insured for the certain threshold, maybe 100,000. Yeah, it's pretty high, whatever it is. And so if there is a claim and we agree to a settlement or we go to court and we lose, we pay a certain amount before the insurance company takes over anything. And I appreciate you explaining a little bit more about the phone situation. I did look it up online. It's $3 a minute. Now, I don't know, that's for out of state. It was cheaper for in-state. So I appreciate you letting us know that that money goes to helping the prisoners. What will we do if we don't have enough funds to run all those programs? Would you guys consider looking for outside grants or would you come directly to the board?
Yeah, so a couple things. Some of those things we're going to need to cut, I believe. One of the things that's quite expensive, and I'll try to keep it a short answer, but one of the things that we're doing, the pro se inmates are becoming, very, very common. And it's difficult for the courts. I think it's difficult for everybody over there. It's also very difficult for us. So we get challenged with storing their discovery in the jail, which, I don't know what would happen if we lost it or damaged it or whatever, so they can defend themselves in their case. We have to make sure that we issue it to the detainee every day so they can have access to it all day if they want it. And we have to log that to make sure that we don't miss it. We have to log when it's returned and we have to inventory and make sure nothing's missing because the liability there is quite high. We provide them with law library services. We provide them with PCs, printer paper and toner so they can print their legal work to prepare for court. Not all of that is legally required. And so one of the things that the tablets offers the inmates is like an online, and I don't want you to get the wrong idea. They don't go to the World Wide Web. It's on the secure server, but there's law library services that are updated. I think it's daily or weekly on that tablet. That's completely free to the inmate and it's completely free to the taxpayers of Will County as well. It comes with part of the software suite with the tablets. Right now, we're spending about $20,000 a year on subscriptions for law library for the inmates that we don't really have to spend. The problem is the detainees have gotten used to the luxury of having a printer in their housing unit, and they can, every case they look up, they can just print off and they don't have to pay for it. By the way, I should clarify, some of that is paid for with their funds, the inmate trust funds. It's not all taxpayers. But still, it becomes a problem because everything they print, they have to be allowed to maintain. We have to store it for them. We have to make sure no one touches it or messes it up. And I think some of those things will be the first things I'll cut. And we'll have to let it play out in court the way that it plays out in court. But for the sheriff's department to be ones providing all that legal stuff, I think it's outside our scope. And that'll probably be the first thing I try to cut. Some of the other things we could probably cut, we will. And then we also are seeking grants through the Center for Correctional Concerns. There's a new director that's in place in CCC right now, and they've been securing some grants as well.
So thank you. I'm gonna, oh, you backed up? I was just gonna say no more lights. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I was very informative. I'm sure everyone appreciated all the stuff that you had to say and to share with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'll get the average length of stay today. I'll send it off to each member of the committee. And if there's any further questions or something that Mr. Pelkey, any questions, reach out to me. Be happy to come back. Otherwise, I'll go back to my cage. Thanks, everyone.
Your shared cage.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. We're back to Kathleen Burke, who's wishing that she got up the first time. Okay. I did say other new business first time and there was none. So please jump in.
Thank you.
What would she,
I
right?
think I'm on.
Oh, you just should. We can turn it back on.
I turned her on.
There we go. Thank you. First of all, I want to piggytail on what the detention center's presentation was, because Dave mentioned MAR, medical assisted treatment. We've been trying to have that in the jail and they now have it, which is progressive. And the MedPath, I think it's MedPath, is their medical provider, and they have been working with outside agencies to be able to provide services when the detainees are released. So the health center is working with them if they're on MAT, that they can be discharged from the center and that they have services immediately, because you can't go without the medication. And so it's been a joy to work with the team. So we're seeing a lot of progression there. So anyway, thanks. Oh, he's gone. He didn't even hear. And I tell him, will you, that we. Don't worry. Okay, so in your report, you have a presentation. You see the opioid overdose deaths. Again, they're still being low. They're not going up. I'd also caution you when you look at these reports that as of 5/13, that's when the coroner updated her data. However, when she updates it again, we may see something in April. Most likely not, but sometimes those numbers change because a case has not come back with the tox reports and they don't update them immediately. But we're in a great trend. We're doing quite well based on our experience so far. We distributed 608 boxes of Narcan last month. We're on that roll. Also, we're doing that. And just as a reminder, for any of you who are interested, tomorrow is Naloxone Awareness Day, National Naloxone Awareness Day. So if you'd like to recognize that, wear purple, carry Narcan, and educate people about overdoses and what they can do to prevent that. So, okay. Next. And then just a summary of some of the things. We partnered with NAMI for mental health awareness in May and did not presentations, but events side by side them, which was very helpful and very successful. We're very collaborative with NAMI. They provide an important service for us in the community, and it goes hand in hand with anyone with a substance use issue. Those are just a couple of examples of the places that we went. The next page has the pop-ups. This question has come up in other arenas, but this for May, these are all the special event locations that we had a team of people passing out Narcan. And sometimes there are some standard ones that we have, but it's always on the calendar. If you're looking ahead and you want to know where my team is going to be, you can find it on the calendar or you can call me. But the May pop-up events, and as you see, we're very well distributed throughout the community, throughout Will County. We have locations across the county and never slight anyone if we can help it. Summer's our big time. We're very busy. Car shows, carnivals, farmers markets. It's a big time for us. And then the next thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, this year we launched a peer recovery support program. And we hired 2 peer support individuals because of the opioid settlement dollars that were funded in our budget. And they have been extremely successful in assisting the our clients, but also our therapists in providing wraparound services that the clients need. When you do that, you facilitate their success, their recovery success, their advancement in their mental health issues in a way that's very effective. So one example that you have here is that, and this is, I'm sure you all hear about housing and the challenges of people finding housing in this community. When you have a mental health disorder or a substance use disorder, housing is even more complex. And so our peer support, Xenia Garrity, worked with an individual for a period of time because her mother died. She was living in a motel, and that was her residence. And that wasn't going to go well for a long time. That was not a healthy place for her to be. So she worked with her to figure out what her assets were and how she could leverage her case to be able to get public housing, and she got it. And so there were sometimes many things, like the fact that her husband was not a legal resident. Was that going to get in her way to get housing? These are all questions that are answered through the peer support program. And it saves the time of the therapist because they can focus on the clinical, and the peer support people focus on the additional services. Next page, please. And then I'm sure we've talked about it, Health has talked about it. We are finalizing the pregnant and postpartum women harm reduction kits. They have been distributed to Blueprint Agency initially, and they've already asked for more. The community is well received. The women are very, very excited about it. And it's stimulating conversations among the women, which is what we want. In order to find to find the women who need the services if they're struggling with a substance use problem and are pregnant or postpartum. Sheila Vukovic from Catholic Charities is a doula. She's very excited about it. We supplied her with some also. Our health center and the health department and other agencies across the county will be able, we have 300 of these to give out. So we're distributing them now. And I want to thank the rapid response team because they're the hands that put these kits together, and I appreciate that a lot. And then just as a reminder, today is the Recovery Center of Joliet, the Community Center of Joliet's open house at 3 o'clock. It's their grand opening. We're going to cut the ribbon. We've had some open houses, but this is their ribbon cutting. So if you are able to stop by, please do. It's from 3 to 5. The ribbon cutting, there'll be some speakers around 4 o'clock, and then the ribbon cutting by 4:30. So there's food, there's resource tables, there's a lot of activity going on. Please stop by if you have an opportunity. And that's my report. Any questions?
Well, I think we're really pressed for time. I think it's pretty informative, but
I won't be insulted if that's what you said.
but thank you very much. You know, we always like to hear and get an update. All right.
Covered everything I had on my list.
Okay, Maggie McDowell from Sunny Hill Nursing Home, please step up and give us your report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to make it very brief. We had a very social month for the month of May. So unless anybody has any questions, in the interest of time, I'm going to just cut through the chase. I've shared a lot of the events that we had. It was, like I said, it was extremely busy, but unless you have any burning questions, I don't really have much in the way of updates. I do want to acknowledge and thank everybody for the county board members who actually came out and joined us for our tour on May the 9th. That was interesting. We had, as you can see, 2 of our residents participated in that. And then, of course, we had Mother's Day, which is a huge event at our facility. It was also Nurses Week. It was National Nursing Home Week. And we had lots of other events. We had Tiaras and Tea Party. It was just a very, very busy month. So unless you have questions, that concludes my report.
We have one question. Right, you have a question?
I just wanted to say I appreciated the tour. Was great, and I wish everybody would have been able to attend. It's the best nursing home I've ever been in, and I've been in several, and county ones as well. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate how clean, how nice, It's just a beautiful facility.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you to everybody who was able to attend. Now, for those members who weren't, certainly if you have an opportunity, reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to give you a personal tour, or if a few of you that missed the event want to let me know, I'd be happy to have you come and see Sunny Hill any day. And then certainly if anybody wants to come over and be a celebrity scooper, I mean, just reach out to our life engagement director or to myself, and we'd be happy to set that up too. Our residents would love it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. And I apologize for not being able to make that. I will take you up on that offer. I was out of town that whole week before and I had a lot of work to catch up on. Sorry. Okay. All right. Elizabeth Balata, our monthly update, please. Thank you. The Health Department.
Good morning. Thank you. And just to save on time, I will just give you some brief updates because I know I do have a staff member here, Nick, who is going to do a short presentation. So the very beginning of my report, once again, talks about impending reductions in revenue. And we did get notified by Illinois Department of Public Health that our Well Woman grant is not going to be continued. So it does end on June 30th. And so that is one staff member that we are working with. We also did get an update though on our respiratory surveillance grant that it is in an injunction. So we can continue to work on that grant and have staff work on that grant. We don't know how long the injunction would go. That grant is supposed to go until June 30th of 26, but we will keep you posted if there's an update on that grant. I was going to provide you with an updated list of grants. However, I really didn't have anything updated since the last time I presented except the Well Woman. So I thought I would just let you know on that one. Of course, we are concerned about funding. So if you had a chance, please read through. And during our Board of Health meeting, we did ask our Board of Health members and our board members if you could reach out to your legislator, whether it be federal or state, to really just push for public health funding, because we are concerned about Medicare and Medicaid also, and the impacts that it will have on our facility. Just wanted to point out that our health equity team, you can tell by all of the events that they attend, that they are out nonstop doing work in the community, letting people know what programs that we provide and the resources that we have at hand. And then I did want to also welcome you to another event. We have, in collaboration with the Mother's Milk Bank of the Western Great Lakes, we opened a milk depot in Joliet in 24, and now we are opening our second location at our northern branch office in Bolingbrook, and the grand opening is June 13th, starting at 1 o'clock. I will send the flyer over to you so you can disseminate it out to all the county board members. So I will get that out to you. And then just one other plug, our environmental health laboratory did have their microbiology certification through the Illinois Department of Public Health, and they passed with no deviation. So I just wanted to give a nice shout out to them. Other than that, I could take questions and then I can turn it on to the next person.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Elizabeth?
I just want to make a
Next week.
statement.
Okay.
Elizabeth, I sit on the board and I am fully aware of the concerns about all of the funding cuts. I know that the county is going to have a lot of trickle down issues. So be sure that you come to us with your request. You're going to have to advocate for yourself.
Correct. We are starting with our Board of Health at the June meeting, and then we will bring it to you at the July meeting.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have a presentation on HIV and STI. And Ryan Queenie and Nick Taylor.
Just me today.
Oh, okay. Ryan.
Nick.
Nick. Oh, Nick.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine. I do have a brief presentation for y'all. So I am from the HIV STI department at the Will County Health Department. I am the public health promotion specialist, and I'll just be talking to you all about our services today. So our main goal is to reduce the spread of HIV and STIs within Will County, and we have a few different ways that we like to do that. We do community outreach as one of our ways to get into the community, talk to everyone, pass out condoms, lube, and get people to test for HIV. We also have partnered with the community health center next door across from the health department in order to get people in, come in, do blood work, testing, and different things like that as well. And then lastly, we do STI surveillance, which is just the way that we investigate STIs that are spreading throughout Will County. We call people, we try to get them in for testing or try to get them in for treatment if we already know that they are a positive case. And so starting with our care clinic, it's designed to help individuals that have acquired HIV and STIs to get into treatment and stay in treatment. A lot of times people can get started with treatment, but whether it be for transportation or stigmatization, all of that, they end up out of treatment and then they don't return. So we try to make sure that once we get them in treatment that they stay there. We also strive to get people that are HIV negative education, get them all the tools that they need to remain HIV negative, because it's becoming increasingly difficult to be HIV negative, especially with HIV numbers and STI on the rise. And so we get them started on a medication called PrEP if we can help it. We really press PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is a medication that allows people to prevent HIV if they are exposed to the virus by 99% through sexual contact and then 74% through injection drug use. And then lastly, at our care clinic, we have vaccinations such as hepatitis A and B, HPV 1 and 2, Mpox, flu, and COVID-19 as well. Just some statistics for you all, so you know what kind of went down in care clinic last year in 2024. The number of visits were double of what they were in 2023, which means that we are increasing our reach within Will County, but that also means that the STIs and HIV numbers have increased as well. We did 231 visits that were related to PrEP and PEP, which means that those people were getting started on the medication to help prevent HIV. And then we did 414 HIV tests in care clinic, which included in-clinic blood draws, and then also our rapid outreach tests that we do within the community. We also had 314 STI screenings, and then 102 of those screenings ended up in positive cases, so we got them treatment. And then we also had 12 new HIV positive patients, which is identified through our care clinic and then linkage to care. We got them in case management, we got them their medication, and they're currently taking their medication to remain undetectable, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then 175 of those HIV patients were linked to case management and care, and then 80 vaccinations administered as well. And within our community outreach, which is our other way that we try to reach our goal by reducing the spread of STIs and HIV, we provide on-site rapid HIV testing right then and there wherever we are at. We do counseling with every HIV test. So if someone wants their results, while the results are being concluded and while they're being brought through the test, we're making sure that we figure out what their sexual history is like. Why do they feel like they need to be tested? What can they do in order to not have to continuously come back and feel fear of HIV? And then we also provide and get people access to PrEP, antiretroviral therapy, which is the medication for HIV, and care clinic services we schedule throughout the community. And then we also hand out item and gear with our QR code that links them to the request form online. And then lastly, we do something called condom distribution. There's a major report that we do every month, but within the community, we do local condom drops and lube through organizations such as Job Corps, which unfortunately will be shutting down soon. We do Daniel Salon, Joliet Junior College, and then many more organizations within the community to make sure that people are protected and not have to feel stigma about coming to the health department to get those resources. And then lastly, we do STI surveillance statistics, and this is just something for you guys here. We have 5 STI nurses. They conduct investigations to help those affected by gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis get into treatment. Of those 5 STI nurses, we have 1 that is solely for HIV as well. So she not only does gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis, but she also does HIV on top of that. And then some investigations, just the number that took place, we had 1,819 chlamydia cases, 877 syphilis cases, and then 388 gonorrhea cases as well this within the past year. And with the STI surveillance, there's something called partner services, which is a way that we get people that have come into our department to get their partners that they have had sexual contact with to get in, tested, and treated. And there's 4 different ways that we can alert those partners about their exposure. So there is the self-referral, which the index patient or the patient that came in talks to their partner about their potential exposure and that they have been exposed. We also have the provider referral, which means that we or a doctor or whoever the case may be, wherever the office they went to, will notify the partners once we get that information, and we'll do it ourselves. And then we have the dual referral, where we prepare the patient to either talk to their partner or we bring the partner in to talk to them together. And then lastly, we have the contract referral, which means that we allow the patient to go tell their partners about their exposure. However, there is a time limit on this. And if we do not see the patient in within like the next 10 or so days, we will make the contact ourselves. So there's a little contract there as well. And so just before I wrap up, I just wanted to let you guys know there's a big event coming up on June 27th. It's a national event across the country. It's the Greater Than AIDS Day, and we have partnered with the local Walgreens on Cass Street to provide HIV testing all day. So we will be there from 10 to 6 p.m. giving free rapid HIV tests. We'll have our mobile van out there. We'll be doing a bunch of tests in there. We'll also be a part of the clinic. We'll be making appointments for people to come in and get actual other STI testing and treatment as well. So please feel free to become a part of that. Tell anyone that you know as well. June 27th on Friday.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
I just, not really being familiar with all this stuff,
Mhm.
it seems like a lot. Like there's a lot of people with
Yes.
this. Like as far as diseases go, like
Mhm.
is this like on the high end of like
Yeah.
like that many compared to other diseases?
Yeah, Will County specifically, we have a higher rate of syphilis right now that's going around. And a lot of that, it just comes to access to education, not having the resources and stigma within people's own family, or not even educating them on protective sexual health
Have
practices.
we identified a specific population? Like, is it people associated with drugs or?
Yeah, the biggest population would be our men that have sex with men population. And a lot of that is due to people not being comfortable talking about their sexuality with people. And so a lot of times they try to they try to meet each other in secret. And in these secret encounters, they are not using condoms, different things like that. And that's why the number is increasing. There's also a bunch of stigma around this population as well that prevents them from feeling comfortable to come and get these services as well. So that's where our main focus is right now.
Did you have a question? Melissa?
Yeah, I did, because you said that the most of the numbers are related to men and men,
Mhm.
but it's also anybody can get.
Yes,
I mean,
anybody.
this is this,
Yes.
and I think that's part of the stigma too. It's an anybody problem.
Yes,
in
everyone should
society.
be concerned.
I appreciate you targeting where the problems are. And this is going to sound crazy,
Mhm.
but I was having a conversation with some college kids, and I don't remember how it came about, but I was letting them know that if they need condoms or help, they can go to the health department. And one of them said that the condoms that they get at the health department are, I don't want to say subpar,
Mhm.
but that they tend to tear more readily. And then I was quickly educated on that there's different levels of
Yes.
condoms and their
Yeah.
ability to function correctly.
Yes, that is
So
correct.
is this something that is true? Because I'm
Yeah.
listening to a bunch of college kids. I'm just
Mhm.
curious.
So specifically with that age group, so one, we have many different condoms. We have the subpar condoms that they mentioned, but we also have the higher end Magnum, Trojan, and all of that. And typically the condoms are breaking are due to human error. They are not putting it on correctly. They're either putting it on backwards. They're using it multiple times. Like you can only use one condom per one sexual activity. And so after the first sexual activity will happen, they will then use it again and it'll rip with the ejaculation, all that inside of the condom. So it's typically probably an education barrier there why the condoms are ripping. And they just so happen to get them from us. And because they're from us and the misuse, they tie, oh, the condom broke. It must be a Will County Health Department issue versus that.
But there are really some,
There are some
Power
condoms,
condoms.
yes, that I would say are on the lower quality, but we typically try to give high-end condoms like Magnum, Trojan, all of that.
that was, I don't want to be handing out something that's not going to be.
Yeah, no, please continue to preach our name to everyone. We have as many condoms as they want, whatever version they want, and there are many varieties, including flavored as well. For them
And
to
then
get.
the
Okay, thank you very much
The
for that
con-
question.
I have one more. The
Okay.
contact tracing,
Mhm.
how difficult is that to get people to come up with the list of their partners?
It can be very difficult if they are embarrassed about talking to their partners, which is why we stay with them and give counseling and make sure that they know that everything that they talk to us is confidential. And if they want us to talk to their partners, they do not have to be exposed or talk to them
And
themselves.
that was my next part, was the counseling. So thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, if there are no other questions. Okay, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate
I
that.
appreciate
and
you all.
some And very enlightening information
you.
about that problem. Okay, is there any public comment? No one like online or anything? Okay, and no public comment? And I have no announcements, no executive session. Can I get a motion to adjourn? A second, please? Is there?
Second, Freeman.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our next meeting is for July 3rd. Thank you.